I think there are many criterias that can be looked at when regarding social diversity, as you can look at anything that is different between people in society and kind of determine whether or not it determine the diversity on that. A couple of things that we usually look at are religion, race and ethnicity, and different aspects of families like the marriage rates and children and who is getting married to who. Compared to places like Pakistan and New Zealand in terms of religious diversity, America ranks above Pakistan but below New Zealand slightly. I think economic inequalities impact families to a large degree, as a lot of times the financial status of a family determines the amount of money and resources that goes into it. So things like the health and education of the parents determines the ability for the children to get certain things that they need, and the luxuries in life that could enhance their lives, like education or like higher education and things of that nature. I thought a lot about what my future and what type of family I would have. And two things always come up to me that are the biggest concerns about that. The first being the amount of money I make, as I would like to make enough money to provide for not only myself, but my partner and, kids if I have those. And how much money I make really determines how well you feel in taking care of your kids and your partner, and maybe in if they get sick or anything like that. But another factor that I feel is just as, if not more important, would be whether or not I feel that the society that I'm in is conducive to starting and maintaining a family, because that's something that I don't have direct control over. And money, I can directly determine how much money I make through what jobs I do and things like that. But the actual direction of society, while I can influence it, I can't directly control that. And if it's going in a direction I feel like it's not gonna really work for building a family that, or building the family that I dream of, then that kind of goes against it. It would push me away from trying to build a family. There are three different perspectives that they talked about. The conservatives' perspective was essentially just you should have a two-parent household with two kids, and the strength of that is that a two-parent household typically does have more money and resources to provide for the children, like health and education. And that is usually something that is better for children and for the partners. Just in case one of them gets unhealthy, the more money and resources that you have, the more ability you have to take care of that person and family without stretching yourself or the children or anybody like that thin. But the downside of that is that there's no real evidence to say that it works on people that it wouldn't probably already work on, as it really just encourages think people who had higher education, who are already more likely to be in a two-parent household and to stay in a to create a two-parent household, to do it. And those aren't really the people you're trying to target. You're trying to target the people who are less likely to be in a two-parent household to then go and be and create one. And it there's no evidence to show that any type of legislations or actions actually induce that type of change. The liberal perspective is kind of the perspective of I don't care, do what you want. And the benefit of that is it does allow for both sides of the spectrum to exist. You can have more diverse families, but you don't restrict the idea of the traditional or conservative point of view of family. And that's a strength because it allows for everybody to kind of be happy doing what they want. But it is a negative as well, because it means it doesn't really hold a stance on whether diversity should or shouldn't happen. It's just more like a bystander of saying, oh, whatever happens, happens, and I'm fine with that. So it doesn't really have a strong stance one way or the other. The critical viewpoint is the opposite of the conservatives, saying that we need to deinstitutionalize and kind of separate from the idea of a structured family as a whole and let people more individually choose what type of family they have. And that's the benefit of that idea, is that people would then have to make the choice to have a family, which could mean that they are more involved in the type of families they have, what their family will do, and things like that. But it also that's also a weakness, as since it is so much more about individuality, it would allow people to separate for families and lose the typical togetherness that people have if they so choose to, separate from the family with no oversight or repercussions on those actions, which could be a negative.